One thing I learned is the Treasury skill set is transferable. Going back to maybe the conversation on soft skills and kind of how we manage Treasury, there's many different things embedded, right? You're not only holding processes and you're going deep into the numbers, but you're learning how to tell a story. You're learning how to articulate the story. You're learning how to create a business case. In some ways, you're a startup, right, within the organization. I've been part of organizations, Ernie, where I've worked with career finance professionals and they have no idea what Treasury is.
Before we start, I want to highlight the biggest challenge I've noticed in the Treasury industry. It's professionals finding it tough to build an impactful brand. That's exactly why I put together an ebook, Building and Managing an Impactful Professional Brand. It has helped over 100 professionals define their unique values and stand out in their careers. In this ebook, you'll find practical tips to build a strong network and sharpen the skills you need to succeed in this industry. And the best part? It's completely free. Grab your copy now by clicking the link in the description below. Hello, everyone. This is Ernie Humphrey. I'm your host for the Treasury Truth or Dare podcast. Honored to have as my guest today Matthew Harlan. He's the Chief Treasury Officer at Nilus. So, Matthew, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you give us a little bit about your background before we dive in today?
Super excited to be here. I've watched the podcast and so cool to see it growing in audience. I'm a former practitioner. So I've been in the Treasury space for about 15 years. Prior to joining Nihilus, I used to lead Treasury at companies like Toast Inc. and Samsara and other companies across multiple verticals. I love the Treasury space. I think it's the best career move out there. I think ultimately where it sits within finance, in between kind of accounting and FP&A, is really important. And a company's cash is the lifeblood of the company. And so being able to manage that, to have stewardship over that, I think is an awesome seat to have, to be frank. I got into Nihilus ultimately because I was very unimpressed with the TMS offerings, to say the least, out there, and wanted to be part of this kind of new renaissance of next gen TMS to actually help use and utilize new technologies like AI to make our lives easier as practitioners. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm doing a service to the community by joining, but super excited on where the space is headed and also the innovations that have recently cropped up.
Thank you so much. And I can say from my perspective as a former practitioner, we are thrilled to have you. And Nihilus has created a position for you, which I think other companies would do well to follow, in my opinion,
I agree.
given your experience and your ability to connect and really understand what we need and why we need it. So it's pretty cool. So I'm excited to have you as a guest. So folks that haven't tuned in just yet, the way we work, we'll do several rounds of Truth or Dare. We'll ask Matthew to share with us a truth or dare, and then we'll hit him up with a truth or dare. And then after about 4 or 5 rounds, I'll let the tables turn on myself, and I'll let him ask me to do a dare live. There's a high bar there. People have made me sing and dance, so let's not get that carried away. But
Well, we may
yeah,
get carried away.
there
Let's.
you go.
Nothing's off the table
There
today.
you go. There you go. That's good. Good to know. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with our first round here. What do you think jumping out of the gate? Would you like to have a truth or a dare?
Give me a dare. I'm
All
feeling
right. All
risky
right.
today.
Well,
Risky.
all right. Here we go. I love this question, and this is a reason why we do the podcast. We want to show about the folks that are really out in front leaders in Treasury. So please share with us something that few people know about you.
Something that few people know about me is actually my career started. I wanted to be an actor. So I tried out for a TV show called The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody.
Oh wow.
Realized very quickly acting was not for me and did not pursue it. But the arts are fun. I have friends that are in the arts. But yeah, originally my life could have looked different if I pursued that acting career.
Oh, thank you so much. Love it. Thank you for sharing. And I don't know, but I knew early on I didn't have the face for acting, so that was not an option. But
Yeah,
I
I don't
did
think I
think
did
about it.
either.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our next round here. Are we gonna go for a truth, or are we gonna maybe do another
Oh, throw
dare?
me a true. Let's mix
All
it up.
right, all right. Why don't you share with us? And I know you've seen both sides of it now, right? Why is Treasury fun, and why is it a career people should aspire to be into?
Yeah, I think nobody goes to school to be a treasury analyst, let's be frank. We usually start out as either studying accounting or economics or finance. And we find through working that, oh, actually, treasury is a great career path that we want to go into. The reason why I think people should get into treasury is I think it involves not only understanding how a company works, it also involves understanding how money works in general. One of the best classes I took in grad school was the history of money and banking, and just understanding how, the money supply works and how banks works and interest rates, how interest rates are moved, what are they dependent on, it was super important. And I think understanding how banks work gave me insight to understand how companies work and how they manage their cash. And so I think that's a skill that's, in my opinion, underrated. Many people can sell, but if I were to liken it to a fish fry, you got people that go out and catch the fish, you got people that need to clean the fish, and then you got people that need to serve it. And when I think about treasury, the office of a treasurer is really kind of preserving and maintaining assets, right? Making sure that every dollar that we collect is used and utilized in the best ability possible. I think that's an underrated skill, and so I think every education institution should begin to, offer treasury programs. I think there's, universities like Rice University that have programs really specified around treasury and the CTP, but I think we would the industry as a whole would do better if we start the education, I think, at a much earlier stage in people's career journey.
Yeah, I completely agree. Back in the day, you probably remember there were a lot more universities that offered that type of education, and somehow they started to go away. So that's one of the things that we need to work on. We had programs in Chicago, all across the country, and I think, and I know you're with me on that. We all need to advocate for our profession and get that back on the curriculum.
Totally agree.
Okay, so let's go to our third round here. We're gonna stay with the truth,
Alright.
or we're gonna go for a dare here.
Give me a dare. Let's
Alright.
make it spicy.
I don't know, some people say this is a truth, but I think it's a dare, because I think it's different. I think you might share my view that soft skills are really important and underrated, and could you share with me why you think that's the case, and what we can do about it? Do we train people? How do we get treasury leaders to invest in that?
Yeah, this is actually a topic that's near and dear to my soul because I think a lot of the skills that are prioritized in finance today, in some cases, are purely analytical, which is really important. We need it. We need quants. We need people to crunch the numbers. We need plumbers to go and find the issues. But I think also what is underrated is soft skills. We need people that can tell a story. Give us the story of the data. We need people that can, what I call, manage an informal authority. And the reason why I like Treasury is we don't necessarily have, authority over AP or authority over AR, authority over inventory, but yet we still hold the whole process of cash, right? We are responsible for that end number. If we miss forecast, the first person that is going to be put on the chopping block is going to be the treasurer to explain why it happened. And so the reason why I like Treasury is you have to kind of learn how to manage not only resources and people that you have no formal responsibility over, but also to manage processes. Cash management is a process, cash forecasting is a process. And so ensuring that your stakeholders have the right information, that you can translate the data in a way that's relevant and understandable to them is something that you don't learn just purely being analytical. And so I do think, in our hiring, there's something I always screen for. How relatable are you? How well do you communicate your story? And that gives me a really good sense of how well you're going to work within an organization, especially one that's fast paced, to communicate the needs of treasury, both laterally but also horizontally. I'm sorry, same thing vertically as well, throughout the organization. So I think it's really important. I think with the advent of AI, we have the opportunity to be stronger in soft skills. I think as operational tasks become automated and we can focus more on strategic, I view soft skills as a strategic skill that treasurers need. And so my hope is, within organizations, we'll continue to hold that in high regard because it's such an instrumental part of the
Yeah.
profession.
No, I love your term for their silent authority. So I love that or whatever that I probably misspoke, but
Informal authority. Yeah,
informal authority outside
yeah.
it, because I've done research and I've asked, treasury professionals, what's your direct control influence, a lot of influence, and I saw that people don't aspire enough to, maybe it's not formal, but have that authority because my opinion has always been a P and AR should report up to Treasury,
I
but
agree. I agree.
but
Yeah, that's a poll, Ernie,
right,
that you
it
should
is a
put out.
poll.
I agree.
Yeah,
AP and AR, at least not the portions that relate to writing the bills and parts of collections and order of cash. I totally agree. I think those should, I think even in some companies, I've talked to some treasurers where they say, "Oh no, I'm actually managing AP and AR now," and it gets me excited because now you have an end to end authority overview to manage the cash process, and it's a piece of the puzzle, a big piece.
yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so I'll let you do one more truth or dare, and then I'll let you have a take on me at a dare. So what are we
Okay,
gonna
that's
do?
great.
Truth or dare for you?
Give me a truth. Let's end in a positive note, and then I'll throw you
Oh,
the
it's always it's
there.
a dare is gonna be a positive note. All right, all right, this is a truth, only relevant to you because now you have a unique perspective. So, what have you learned during your time at Nilus being on the other side of the table that you might not have known? What have you learned going into the education, maybe not the sales, but informing side on folks?
Yeah. One thing I learned is the treasury skill set is transferable. Going back to maybe the conversation on soft skills and kind of how we manage treasury, there's many different things embedded, right? You're not only holding processes and you're going deep into the numbers, but you're learning how to tell a story. You're learning how to articulate the story. You're learning how to create a business case. In some ways, you're a startup, right, within the organization. I've been part of organizations, Ernie, where I've worked with career finance professionals and they have no idea what treasury is. And not only do you need to educate your peers, but you also need to inform them on how best to work with you, and that is not an easy task to do, especially if you come in and you're trying to create a 30, 60, 90-day performance plan for yourself. You have to do a lot of trench work in the early days to get those appropriate plumb lines established so that you can get what you need and be able to kind of steward the organization. So it's a lot of startup work. And I think my hunch was those skills are directly transferable to working in a startup, right? Managing go to market, helping to work on the partnership side, understanding the sales cycle and tinkering to find improvements there, thinking about product rollout and iteration. And I think what I found personally is that treasurers can do a lot more than just treasury. I think I think it's training grounds for leadership. Frankly, I think when we see a lot of the best CFOs or a lot of the best CEOs, they're very dynamic. They have the ability to zoom in and zoom out through short iteration. They can go down and understand the detail, but they also can come up at a high level to articulate the story to folks that maybe don't understand the quantitative side. And so I think I would love to see more treasurers transition to CFO and executive positions because I do think that the role and the responsibilities quite unique. It's a unique training ground that you don't get in any other part of finance, in my opinion.
Just showing how treasury can take you anywhere that you want it to, just given the experience that you have and the leadership and the relationships that you have got to build across the enterprise. I also love, I've touched on this on a few other episodes, how we all could do better on being advocates for the Treasury brand, and you're teaching Treasury leaders to do that, right? And that's awesome. So I love that. So maybe I should do a webinar on how to promote the
You have my
Treasury
number.
brand. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
Treasury brand within the organization,
it's
right?
true.
Just to toot your own horn, toot your brand, your department's own horn with just showing this is the value. So we're here,
Yeah,
coach.
and
Put
if I
me
could
in.
add
Sure.
something really quick to that conversation, I do think a lot of the misconception around treasury is you're the bank people. You manage the bank account, that's what you're needed for. But I think what we quickly find, especially in finance organizations, is treasury becomes the ad hoc bucket that captures all the ad hoc analysis, especially when we think about capital markets, or things that don't fit nicely in accounting or finance, it usually comes to treasury. And I think that's something that we shouldn't shy away from, that we should actually embrace, because you start to learn more about, these different areas that probably you won't get training on anywhere else, like insurance, or, doing an IPO, or managing a share buyback. Like, all these things are skills that are really in demand, that AI is not going to be able to do for us, because they're strategic. And so I think rebranding treasury is important, but I do think it starts with the professional. You have to advocate for what you want to do. If you don't want to just be purely operational, then you need to go in and you need to find what matters most to the business and find ways to directly add value to those areas, right? There's ways that we can do it. We're not yield chasers, right? We don't have to be hedge funds, but can we further utilize cash to get some additional interest income for the company? Can we find ways to manage a better, more efficient bank structure to lower costs? The answer is yes. And I think as you kind of have times at bat, or your time in the sun with the board and with your stakeholders, execute on those moments. Find ways to show that you are more than just a cost center, that you can actually drive value for the company. I think as we do that, we'll start to gain additional rapport with some of our leaders, and we'll start to see, this kind of new crop of strategic treasurers begin to take their positions and take their seats. So
Okay, thank you. All right, now let's allow Matthew to have some fun here. So
I'm
I'm gonna
ready.
I'm gonna let you give me a dare. Hopefully, I won't have to get out of my chair for this, but I'm willing to do
No,
it.
so Ernie, I hear you're a musical guy. I hear you like music. So I'd love for you to sing us a few bars of your go-to karaoke song. The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I might have done this. This one's a little bit harder. So I do the easy one I did was Mandy. So that's an older guy. So I'll try this. It's not gonna sound good a cappella. So let's try this. Ready? You are my fire, the one desire. Believe when I say, 'cause I want it that way.
Ernie, that was good. That was a good tune, I gotta say. In sync?
No, Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys. I get those confused.
I'm,
Backstreet
go-
Boys.
I'm
Okay.
gonna have to end the podcast now, but
Yeah, that was. We'll
that's
have your editor add some auto tune, but I think it was great. I think it was you
no,
did
no auto
fantastic.
tune. It's authentic. It just depends on your DJ. Sometimes they're really good, and then sometimes the background is not the best. So actually,
Yeah,
our friend, I don't know if you probably caught, and I didn't know, our friend Bridget Meyer is has the voice of an angel, so she sang
he
for me, and I
does.
was like, wow, yeah,
Really?
oh
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, Bridget. Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's turn it back to the folks of the podcast. Now I always get off when I sing, I get excited. Okay, so let's go back, Matthew. We gonna go for a truth or maybe a dare?
Give me a dare.
Okay, I'm gonna give you one that's a little. I like this question here. If you were stuck on a desert island with one of your work colleagues, who would that be and why?
I'll probably choose our sales guy, Evan. I think salespeople have a desire to just want to win. And those are the people that you want whenever you're tight on resources, because they're going to find a way to get you off the island. So shout out to Evan, our sales guy.
All right, nice, nice. Hey, I love that. We always gotta be pumping up our sales guys. That's what people don't do that enough in their organizations, especially with treasury. I used to get into it with sales. People will not get into it, but we need to build those relationships. Okay, so let's go back. All right, so let's do a round or two more, and then I'll give you a chance to give us a few, fine points for folks. So are we gonna go for a truth or a dare?
Let's do a truth.
All right, let's do a truth. And you've touched on this already, but I think it's really important. How has networking within Treasury and beyond Treasury impacted your career, and how have you done that? A few things. How have you been able to do that authentically?
Networking is instrumental, not only in every professional, but especially in treasury. There's not a lot of us, if we're honest. And I always get excited when I see someone at an event, or you run into someone that you've seen online, like Eleanor Hill or someone like that you
Right.
haven't seen in a while. And so I think it's important that we maintain those relationships, one thing I always tell people, especially on the job search side, you never know who is going to be the key to your next opportunity. Treasurers talk, right? You know who's going to leave a role. When I left my role at Toast, I had people reach out who wanted it and, was able to provide guidance. And so I think it's important to maintain those relationships. I view it as a community. We all stand on the shoulders of folks that went before us. And I'm thankful for, treasurers that were before me that offered to have a meeting with me. And the way I did it was just really cold email. I was just like, hey, look, I would love to get 30 minutes of your time, 15 minutes. And you'd be really surprised at how many people, amidst a busy schedule, are willing to make sure that they can pour into the next generation of talent. For me, it was people like Easton Dixon over at Bain who, took a meeting with me, met me to have coffee and provided a lot of insight in it. And frankly, one of the reasons why I've stayed in this career, I met with him at a challenging time when I was thinking about leaving the profession and he just gave me some really good encouragement. And so I think it's important. I think, networking when you form relationships acts as a buffer. I've gotten to meet you and people like Bridget. And I was talking to Bridget yesterday on something unrelated to an event, but just like, sharing knowledge, sharing notes, and really trying to parse out treasury and AI. It's a fast moving ship and it's changing probably every second. Even now, it's changing. So I think it's important that we maintain those connections. You never know when you're going to need someone, and you never know the value that someone else could bring to your life, not just only personally but also professionally. So I think networking is a top three most important things that every treasury person should do.
All right. Speaking of three, we're gonna close things out for you here.
Okay.
I'm gonna wave my magic wand here. I'm gonna give you three wishes for treasury professionals in 2025,
Okay.
and what would
Okay.
those be?
Get better systems. Guys, we're not superheroes. I know we try to act like it sometimes. We need systems that work. And so really start to, ring the bell internally, especially during budget season to say we need something. I think a lot of times we're quiet. We try to do as much as we can with what we have. And I think that's noble to some extent. But if you really want to scale, if you really want to set yourself up to be more strategic, you need systems. Accounting has a system. FP&A has planning tools. Treasury, you need a system. So that's one. Second thing is, I would say invest time really understanding your business. Don't sit at the edge of the process, right? Waiting for information to come to you. Don't even just rely on your finance counterparts, right? You become a business owner, right? You manage relationships. Meet with those that are managing supply chain. Meet with your sales folks. Sit in on a sales call, intimately understand the quirks and the process and the engine of your company. It's only going to make you a better treasurer. You're going to be able to understand the detail and you're going to be able to synthesize the story with the data in a much richer way. The third thing I would say is take risk. Go after that position. I think I talked to a lot of people. There's been people I've worked with where I'm like, hey, you can totally manage your own team, right? Don't wait for the next seat in line. I think a lot of times and Ernie, you know this well, Treasury is such a flat
Yeah.
organization, and you have to wait for either someone to die
Yeah.
or get disgruntled enough to leave before you feel like you have an opportunity. And sometimes you can wait too long. I think if you know where you want to be and you know the skills that you need, you want to get insurance, you want to get capital markets, you want to get public company experience, you want to get global treasury experience, you want to get FX, then you build your career in a way that allows you to gather those skill sets. I think you need to understand what differentiates you from the next treasurer. And so it's important. I've taken risk. This is a risk I've taken to join Nilus many times in my career, and I've never been left feeling buyer's remorse from doing that. It's scary, of course. You bet in the house in some areas, but I think, we are good at taking calculated risk in treasury, right? So do your analysis, think about what you want, think about what you want to provide to the space and go out and get it.
Thank you so much, Matthew, for sharing your insights and your knowledge. And also, I want to thank you for what you are doing and have been doing for the treasury profession. So thank you. I
No, thank
I
you as
I
well.
I appreciate that. So, in closing, everyone, have the courage to live your treasury truths and dare to be great in everything that you do within and beyond Treasury. Until next time, everyone.
Thanks for watching the show. I hope you guys liked it. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned and hit the subscribe button for more.